Recently, the U.S. Semiconductor Industry Association released a report claiming that in 2024, the U.S. accounted for 50.4% of the global chip market, directly seizing half of the pie, while China's mainland share dropped from 7.2% to 4.5%, not even a fraction of the U.S. figure. This data has left many uneasy. Has the U.S., with its relentless equipment bans and corporate sanctions over the years, truly crushed China's chip industry? Hold on. Don't jump to conclusions just yet. The U.S.'s dominant position in the chip field is indeed rock solid. From CPUs to GPUs, mobile chips to memory, American companies almost monopolize the high-end market. What's even more ruthless is that the U.S. doesn't just profit from technology, but also uses chips as political leverage, strangling one country today, cutting off supplies to another tomorrow, and directly wielding the big stick against anyone who dares to challenge its position. In recent years, as China's chip industry began to emerge, the U.S. immediately teamed up with the Netherlands and Japan to implement technological blockades. Critical equipment like EUV lithography machines was banned without hesitation, and companies like Huawei and SMIC were added to blacklists for targeted strikes. But let's be honest, the credibility of SIA's report is shakier than the Pacific Ocean. The data is self-reported, leaving ample room for embellishment. For example, the report claims the U.S. and South Korea gained market share, while Japan, Europe, and Taiwan saw declines. The most exaggerated drop? China's mainland, nearly 40% in a year, slashed to below the waist. This data looks alarming, but with a little thought, it's clear. If China's chip industry were truly collapsing this fast, would the U.S. still need to go to such lengths to blockade it? In reality, China's chip situation is best described as frustrating. Being choked in high-end equipment and lagging in advanced processes is a fact. But on the other hand, domestic chips are thriving in mature nodes, 28 nanometers and above. China's production lines are running at full capacity for chips above 28 nanometers, and localization rates in automotive chips, home appliance chips, and IoT chips are skyrocketing. SIA's report only focuses on the high-end market, turning a deaf ear to the mid to low-end segment. Isn't this as absurd as using Michelin restaurant standards to judge a street food stall? More importantly, the U.S. is also playing data games. In SIA's methodology, chip market share is calculated based on corporate nationality. For example, although Intel has factories in China, because its owner is American, it's directly counted as part of the U.S. camp. Of course, we can't blindly optimistic just because the data is fishy. The U.S. indeed has a strong foundation in chips. Its technological reserves, talent pool, and ecosystem barriers are not things that can be matched in the short term. But China's chip industry hasn't been idle all these years. From design to manufacturing, materials to equipment, the entire supply chain is racing to catch up. Even if we're being pressed to the ground now, as long as we persist in independent innovation, we'll eventually break through. At its core, the chip war isn't decided by a single report. The more the U.S. panics and blocks, the more it proves we're on the right path. Instead of obsessing over how much our market share has dropped, we should focus on how to master key technologies. After all, data can lie, but real strength is proven in the ring. Recently, the global chip industry was rocked. Dutch veteran NXP announced it would gradually shut down 3 8-inch wafer fabs in the Netherlands and the U.S. This is no small matter. The factories slated for closure exclusively produce antique chips above 100 nanometers. Even more explosive, major international players like Bosch and Infineon are quietly shutting down similar production lines as the entire industry dominoes toward 12-inch advanced processes. Simply put, this wave of factory closures is driven by two heavy punches. The first is the inevitability of technological iteration. Currently, 75% of global wafer capacity is concentrated on 12-inch production lines. After all, 12-inch wafers offer 2.25 times the area of 8-inch wafers, yielding more chips and slashing costs significantly. It's like cooking with a bigger pot, more economical. More crucially, the 100nm plus processes that 8-inch wafers focus on are already old news from a decade ago, with a market pie shrinking. Who would want to cling to a losing business? But what's really suffocating Western manufacturers is the second punch, the iron fist of Chinese manufacturing. In 2022, China accounted for just 21% of global 8-inch wafer capacity. Now, that figure has skyrocketed to over 70%. This isn't about low-price competition, but real cost advantages. Domestic manufacturers have compressed production costs to 30% to 50% below foreign competitors, offering unbeatable value for money. Now, when global customers buy these good enough chips, their eyes are fixed on Chinese factories, leaving foreign players scrambling for scraps. If they don't shut down factories, are they just waiting to lose money? Some might ask, are 8-inch wafers completely doomed? Not exactly. In fields like automotive chips and power management chips, there's no need for cutting-edge 5 nanometers or 3 nanometers processes. Stability and reliability are what matter. Chinese manufacturers have precisely targeted this niche, using economies of scale to drive costs to rock-bottom levels. Foreign competitors want to compete? First, calculate whether shipping and tariffs can cover the cost gap. There's a strange phenomenon in the global smartphone market. While China and India keep their doors wide open, the US touts itself as free and open. Yet Chinese smartphone brands find it harder to enter than climbing to the sky. Huawei, Xiaomi, Oppo, these globally dominant brands all hit a wall in the US, either labeled as security risks or blocked by baseless policies. Simply put, the US is afraid Chinese phones will steal Apple's lunch. Today, Apple comfortably holds 60% of the US market. Samsung enjoys favored son treatment with 25%, and the remaining 15% is divided among brands like Google. Yet, against this ironclad defense, 2 Chinese companies have broken through: Lenovo and TCL. The latest data shows Lenovo claiming 3rd place with 9% market share, while TCL secures 5th with 2%. These numbers may seem modest, but remember, this was achieved under heavy US blockade. Their strategy is nothing new: backdoor listings. Lenovo acquired Motorola in 2014, and TCL took over Alcatel in 2004. These once iconic Western brands became perfect shells. Motorola was a household name in the US, leaving regulators no excuse to block it. Though Alcatel is European, TCL's mastery of production lines and channels has kept it thriving in the US market. But don't celebrate too soon. Both companies mainly sell mid to low-end phones in the US. Apple, Samsung, and Google uniformly push flagship models with sky-high profits, while Chinese brands can only scrape by with cost-performance offerings. This scene resembles Japan's auto invasion of the US, starting from the mid to low end and climbing up after gaining a foothold. But the question is, will the US give Chinese phones that chance? At its core, the US's Openness Act is too slick. It preaches free trade on the surface, but builds trade barriers behind the scenes, fearing Chinese brands will shake Apple's dominance. But market laws can't be blocked by administrative means. Lenovo and TCL's workaround of acquisitions could be emulated by other Chinese brands. After all, when US consumers vote with their wallets, they don't care which country makes the phone, only which one works better and costs less. This maneuver also serves as a wake-up call for domestic smartphone brands. To enter the US market, stealth beats a frontal assault. Instead of banging heads against policies, learn from Lenovo and TCL. First master the sub-brand game, then reveal your true colors after gaining a foothold. By then, even if the US tries to shut the door, it may not stop the infiltration of Chinese phones. In the chip foundry sector, TSMC and Samsung once led by light years. And this lead was evident in 2 aspects: technology and market share. Technologically, Samsung and TSMC are the only 2 companies globally to have entered 3 nanometers processes, while others lag behind by generations, with some stuck at 10 nm plus and no longer even pursuing R&D. In terms of market share, between TSMC and Samsung, TSMC once held over 60%, while Samsung accounted for 15 to 20%. Other players were all below 6%, completely out of their league. But in recent years, a clear trend has emerged. TSMC continues to surge ahead, while Samsung struggles, with both its technology and market share performance weakening. Meanwhile, SMIC, backed by China's strong support, has been racing forward, climbing from 5th place to 3rd, with momentum still fierce. This has led to an exciting development for netizens. As Samsung declines and SMIC advances, SMIC now poses a threat to Samsung, even potentially catching up to or surpassing it. As shown in the chart above, this is the market share situation for these three companies in Q1 2025, calculated based on revenue. TSMC still dominates at 67.6%, maintaining its lead. But Samsung's share has dropped to just 7.7%. Though it remains the global number 2, this is only a third of its peak of 20%. SMIC's share stands at 6%, ranking third, seemingly not far from Samsung. In terms of market share, it's just 1.7% behind. Many are thrilled, declaring that SMIC is truly just one step away from becoming the world's second-largest foundry, a historic achievement. Honestly, if you only look at the 6% and 7.7%, the gap does seem small, just 1.7 percentage points, a trivial matter. But if you analyze the market share carefully, you'll realize this 1.7% isn't as simple as it seems. To grow from 6% to 7.7%, SMIC would need a 28.3% increase in revenue. For a company of this scale, is 28.3% growth easy? Consider that in all of 2024, SMIC's full-year revenue was 57.8 billion yuan, with a YoY growth rate of 27.7%. In other words, even if Samsung stands still, SMIC would need to maintain its 2024 growth rate for a full year to catch up. If Samsung grows slightly or SMIC's growth slows, it could take even longer. So don't underestimate this 1.7%. Relative to SMIC's base of just 6%, it's a significant leap. Of course, we shouldn't underestimate SMIC either. Perhaps 2025 growth will exceed 30%, and by 2026, it might truly overtake Samsung. Additionally, we must acknowledge that Samsung still holds strong advantages, especially in advanced processes. Though there may be some exaggeration, it has at least reached 3 nanometers.